Welcome to Story Glimpse. Today we're going to talk about Hunger, a short story I wrote and went over in a previous episode, and we're going to look at setting and how important it was. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Story Glimpse. I'm Weston Kincade, bestselling author, and we're going to get started talking about setting. Now, setting, whenever I was writing Hunger, was incredibly important. I set it in West Virginia for a specific reason, and there are other elements that should be taken into consideration whenever you're deciding where your story should be set. Now, basically, it can be broken down into 6 points. The first point is thinking about your audience, okay? Thinking about where it should be set, what your audience is expecting. This one was a zombie short story, so I kind of wanted the same feel as The Walking Dead. So I was looking for some place that, of course, had trees, rural in nature. But I also, as I was writing, had to consider water, things that are essential to the storyline itself. So that can affect your geography and the setting you choose. For instance, if you set it in a desert, then of course certain natural resources are going to become important. So, point 2. Now, here's where I think you should focus on the natural resources and what you have, why you chose that location. Like I was saying, I chose it because I wanted the same kind of a zombie feel as The Walking Dead, which, if you follow the link above, you can check out if you haven't heard of it. Now, the thing that you should focus on, though, is utilizing your trees, utilizing your other natural resources that may be available to you, but also keep in mind that certain things may not. If in my story Hunger, they needed water. This is a post-apocalyptic type scenario where they're trying to get from place to place, and they need water, they need food. So geographically, whenever I'm looking at the setting, I would have to look at how far they have to travel whenever I'm considering the setting. Point 3, be realistic with time. And that's what I was kind of hinting at before. You don't want to actually have a story where they're traveling, say 500 miles, and they get there in a day. It's unrealistic. So you need to be realistic with both your distances, but also how it comes across to the reader. Now, you can actually take some distances, and through your storytelling, you can shorten the length of time that it's going to take to get there. They're not going to read 500 miles worth of story of what's happening. You can summarize things that happen, but you have to keep that in mind. Point 4, don't overwrite. Okay? You don't want to overly dramatize or become overly descriptive in your settings. Remember, too much description, I'm guilty of this myself, but too much description will lose the reader. You need to have just the right amount. So whenever I finish a rough draft, I normally wind up cutting things out. So whenever you're using descriptions of the area, the setting, what's going on, if you find yourself being overly descriptive of the setting, that's okay. Don't stop yourself while you're trying to, while you're in the flow and trying to get things out. But at the end, come back and revise editing with that in mind. Point 5, use the setting and real life settings as your inspiration. In the story Hunger, they come upon this old Depression era house with this chain link fence around the front. whenever I was writing this, I was picturing an old house that I used to live in St. Paul, Virginia. I mean, it was a Depression-era house, hand-dug basement, chain link fence out front, not out back. And, I just used that as inspiration, front porch and everything, for the story, for the idea, for the setting. So think about your life. What are some areas or regions that you're familiar with? Do you go hiking a lot? Do you mountain climb? Any of these things and locations you go could be inspiration for one story or many stories. Point 6. Now, your story's setting really is going to set the tone for the whole story. If it's in Alaska, snow, the freezing feel, that atmosphere that's being created is going to set that tone. If it's in Indiana, or that region, the Midwest, then you may have certain things around that you wouldn't otherwise. Think about the tone of what you're going for. Describe not everything, but the things in that scenery that are going to help create that atmosphere, help create that tone. And that's probably one of the most important points of the day. Thanks again for joining us here at Story Glimpse Season 1. Again, I'm Weston Kincade, bestselling author. And if you liked what you saw today and would like to hear and see more, remember to subscribe and click the bell. We'd love to have you. If you have any other comments or things you'd like to actually see for future episodes, please post them below. We look forward to seeing it. Have a great day.